The night began with a silence that felt heavier than the truth we were all hiding. A single message lit up the phone screen and shattered the calm like broken glass. No one expected the sender, and no one dared to admit why the name caused a tremor. In the dim hallway, footsteps echoed as if someone was packing with a secret too loud to keep. Every shadow stretched long, twisting into shapes that hinted at something unfinished. A cold draft slipped under the door, carrying a whisper none of us wanted to hear. The tension tightened, pulling every breath into something sharp and uneasy. Then the lights flickered, once, twice, like a warning trying to speak before it was too late. By the time the room turned still again, we all knew the past had finally come knocking. Evan arrived at the old house before sunrise, carrying the envelope he swore he would never open. The wooden steps groaned beneath his weight, as if protesting his return after all these silent years. A faint smell of dust and forgotten pages floated through the doorway when he pushed it open. He paused, listening for any sign that someone else had been here before him. Only the distant hum of passing cars answered, slow and indifferent to his hesitation. He stepped inside, feeling the cold floor press against every memory he tried to suppress. A picture frame lay crooked on the wall, showing 3 faces smiling at a time that felt unreal now. Evan looked away quickly, afraid of what his mind might bring back if he stared too long. He dropped his bag on the table, and the sound echoed too loudly in the empty room. The envelope slipped out and landed near the edge, its corner bent like a reluctant confession. He picked it up, feeling the weight of unspoken truths sealed behind the thin paper. The handwriting on the front tightened his chest, familiar enough to sting. He set it aside and walked toward the window where the first rays of light crept in slowly. Outside, the yard had grown wild, as if nature tried to cover what time refused to heal. He remembered the last night he stood here, shouting words he wished he could pull back. He pressed his forehead against the cool glass, wondering if coming back was a mistake. A soft noise broke the stillness, a faint shift from the room upstairs. His pulse quickened, and he held his breath, waiting for the sound to return. When it did, it was sharper, like a step landing on a loose board. Evan turned toward the staircase, every instinct urging him to leave before the truth caught him. But he stayed, drawn by a force stronger than fear, shaped by regret and unfinished stories. The steps creaked as he climbed, each one measuring the distance between past and present. Dust danced in the thin light, swirling like ghosts too gentle to frighten. Halfway up, he stopped as the sound came again, closer and more deliberate. He whispered a name he had not spoken in years, tasting guilt in every syllable. No answer came, but the silence felt like a response of its own. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched dark and narrow, swallowing the morning light. The door at the end was slightly open, the same way it had been on that final night. Evan approached with slow steps, feeling the weight of old choices pressing against his spine. When he pushed the door wider, the air inside shifted, carrying a chill that wrapped around him. The room looked untouched, but something felt misaligned, as if someone had stood here moments ago. His eyes fell on the small box on the desk, its lid half open like an invitation. Inside lay a single photograph, and the moment he lifted it, his heart snapped tight. The picture was new, impossibly new, showing someone who should not have been here at all. He held the photo with trembling hands, realizing the envelope was only the beginning. Evan stared at the photograph until the edges blurred, as if the truth could dissolve if he refused to see it. The image showed Claire standing in the very hallway he had just walked through moments ago. She looked over her shoulder in the photo, frozen mid-turn like someone caught by surprise. The timestamp in the corner burned into his mind, marked only 24 hours earlier. His breath hitched as he tried to understand how she could have been here after all this time. He slid the photo back into the box, his fingers shaking with questions he feared to voice. A soft thump echoed downstairs, breaking the stillness that wrapped around the room. He moved back toward the stairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. The house groaned, as if responding to every inch of doubt tightening in his chest. At the bottom, he found the front door cracked open despite locking it moments before. A cold draft swept across the floor, scattering dust like a warning too subtle, yet too deliberate. He called out, his voice low and unsure, swallowed quickly by the vast quiet. No reply came, but the door swayed slightly as if someone had just slipped outside. Evan followed the movement, stepping onto the porch with caution waking every nerve. The early morning light revealed footprints in the dirt, small and fresh like they belonged to Claire. He knelt to examine them, but the trail ended abruptly near the edge of the yard. It was as though the footprints simply disappeared into the air, without direction or purpose. He straightened slowly, feeling watched by something he could not name. Across the street, a black car idled with its windows tinted almost to a mirror sheen. He felt its gaze before he saw it. A silent weight settled directly on him. The engine hummed with steady patience, too calm to belong to someone passing through. Evan stepped back toward the house, sensing a thread connecting every strange moment. Before he reached the door, his phone vibrated sharply in his pocket. A single text message flashed across the screen, sent from an unknown number at the exact second. "Stop looking." The words chilled him more than the morning air, as if someone had been waiting for his every move. He looked up at the car again, but the engine suddenly roared and the vehicle sped away. Dirt scattered behind its tires, leaving only silence and a faint trace of exhaust in its wake. Evan gripped his phone tightly, replaying the message until the meaning pressed into his skin. The world felt thinner now, stretched between fear and the truth chasing him from every corner. He stepped back inside, shutting the door with a firmness he hoped would hold his resolve. The envelope still sat on the table, untouched since he arrived. He picked it up with new determination, knowing avoiding it was no longer an option. Tearing the seal, he unfolded the letter inside, its ink slightly smeared as if written in hurry. A chill spread through him as he read the first line, realizing someone had known he would return. By the final sentence, one thing was clear to him in a way that felt irreversible. Claire was alive, and someone was making sure he found out exactly the way they wanted. Evan sank into the chair, gripping the letter as if it contained every answer he sought. The words swirled in his mind, half warning and half confession, impossible to ignore. He traced the sentences with trembling fingers, imagining Claire's hand writing each one. A sudden knock on the door made him jump, the sound sharp and deliberate in the silence. "Who's there?" he called, trying to keep his voice steady, though it wavered with fear. No answer came, only the repeated knock, more insistent this time. He rose slowly, each step measured, and approached the door with caution. Peering through the peephole, he saw no one, only the empty street bathed in morning light. Evan opened the door a crack, heart pounding, expecting a shadow or a trap. Nothing waited outside, except the whisper of wind and a single envelope on the doorstep. He picked it up, noticing it was addressed in the same handwriting as the first letter. The envelope felt heavier than paper should, like it carried secrets too large for its size. Inside was a key, small and metallic, with an old label that read basement. A cold shiver ran down his spine as he realized someone was guiding him deeper into the house. He descended the stairs slowly, the key clutched in his palm like a lifeline. The basement door was solid, dark, and uninviting, yet the key fit perfectly in the lock. Turning, it released a click that echoed far louder than the mechanism deserved. The door swung open to darkness, swallowing the faint morning light from above. He stepped inside, feeling the air grow colder, heavier with each cautious movement. A faint smell of damp wood and old paper filled his nose, making him hesitate. The beam from his flashlight cut through the black, revealing walls lined with boxes. Each box was marked with dates and names, meticulous records of forgotten moments. He bent down to open one, the lid creaking like it had been waiting for him. Inside were photographs, letters, and objects he recognized from the past he tried to forget. His fingers shook as he sifted through them, memories hitting like sudden waves. A photo of Claire laughing at a summer party made his chest tighten painfully. Next to it was a note, written in haste. "I never left, I was always watching." Evan's mind raced, trying to connect the dots, but the story seemed to twist in on itself. He opened another box, this one smaller, with a single object wrapped in cloth. Unfolding it revealed a locket, engraved with initials he had not seen in years. Inside the locket was a tiny photograph of Claire and someone else, someone unknown. The room seemed to shrink around him as the truth pressed closer than ever. He realized the letters, the photo, the key, were all a trail, leading him somewhere dangerous. A soft whisper brushed past his ear, making him spin, but no one was there. Only the boxes remained, silent witnesses to a story he had yet to fully uncover. Evan understood he was being drawn into a game, and every move from here mattered. The basement held secrets that could unravel everything he thought he knew. He took a deep breath, steadying himself, knowing he could not turn back now. Each step deeper into the basement was a step closer to Claire, and to the truth he feared most. Evan's hands trembled as he pulled another box from the shelf, the weight heavier than before. The label read a date from years ago, one he had tried desperately to erase from memory. Inside, he found letters stacked neatly, each envelope sealed with wax and a faint scent of perfume. He picked up the first, breaking the seal with care, as if disturbing it could release more than words. The handwriting was elegant, familiar yet taunting, tracing the past he had buried deep. Every sentence pulled him back to nights, filled with arguments, laughter, and unanswered questions. He read a line that made his heart stop, hinting Claire had never truly left him behind. A sudden sound made him jump, the basement door creaking as if someone had entered. He froze, holding the letter midair, listening for the faintest echo of movement. Nothing came, only the soft drip of water from a pipe in the corner of the room. Evan forced himself to continue, each letter a layer peeling back the life he thought he knew. Some letters were addressed to him directly, others were notes to someone else, unsigned but urgent. A recurring phrase kept appearing: "Trust only what you see when the time is right." His pulse quickened as he realized the letters formed a trail, a hidden path of communication. He found a small notebook wedged between boxes, pages filled with cryptic messages and dates. One entry stood out, mentioning a meeting place he remembered from years ago. It was a park bench near the river, a spot he and Claire had once promised to return to. His hands clenched the notebook as a plan began forming in his mind, despite the fear gnawing at him. A faint scratching sound from the corner made him spin toward the shadows. Nothing visible, yet the sense of being watched pressed against him like a heavy weight. He realized the letters, the photos, and the locket were all orchestrated to guide him somewhere. Every detail of the basement seemed to pulse with intention, waiting for him to understand. Evan reached for another box, one smaller, almost hidden behind larger crates. Inside was a key identical to the one that had led him here, and a folded map. The map marked locations he recognized, all places tied to Claire and moments they had shared. A note on the map instructed him to go alone, warning him to trust no one. His heart pounded with a mixture of fear and anticipation, knowing the next step was dangerous. The letters hinted at a confrontation, a truth Claire had hidden from him for years. He traced the route with his finger, memorizing every turn, every hidden corner. A sudden creak from above made him glance at the stairs, the shadows shifting slightly. He wondered if someone had been following him, reading his every move without his knowledge. Evan understood now the game was far from over. He was a player, but not yet in control. Every discovery in the basement was a piece of a puzzle he needed to complete. He felt the weight of expectation, Claire's presence lingering even when she was absent. Finally, he folded the letters and map, tucking them into his coat for the journey ahead. The basement felt colder as he ascended the stairs, each step echoing like a drumbeat of destiny. Evan knew leaving the house would not end the story. It was only the beginning. The real confrontation, the truth Claire had hidden, waited just beyond the morning light. Evan stepped outside, the morning sun casting long shadows over the overgrown yard. The map in his coat pocket felt heavier with every step toward the first location. He followed the familiar streets, each corner reminding him of memories he had tried to forget. The city seemed quiet, almost too quiet, as if it was holding its breath for what was coming. He approached the park bench by the river, the place marked clearly on the map. The bench was empty, but the air felt thick, charged with expectation and hidden threats. He set his bag down and unfolded the letters, scanning for clues left by Claire. A single line caught his attention. "Wait, but don't look away. Time is closer than it seems." Evan glanced around, noting shadows under trees and the glint of sunlight on the water. He felt the first prickle of danger, a presence he could neither see nor name. Minutes passed with only the sound of wind and rustling leaves to break the tension. Suddenly, a figure appeared across the river, blurred by distance but unmistakably human. His heart leapt. The figure moved with deliberate steps, heading directly toward him. Evan stood, readying himself, unsure whether to greet or to flee. The figure stepped closer, revealing the unmistakable features of Claire. She looked older, changed, yet her eyes held the same intensity he remembered. She stopped a few feet away, the space between them humming with unspoken words. Evan tried to speak, but his voice faltered, trapped by years of questions and fear. Claire held up a hand, shaking her head slightly, signaling him to stay silent. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small envelope, identical to the others. Evan took it cautiously, noticing the familiar handwriting that both comforted and terrified him. Claire's eyes darted nervously, scanning the surroundings as if expecting someone else to appear. He unfolded the envelope, revealing a single note: "Meet me where it all began." Evan's mind raced, recalling the abandoned house where their story first fell apart. Claire stepped closer, whispering, "We don't have much time. Someone is watching us." He nodded, the sense of urgency anchoring every instinct in his body. They moved together along the river path, careful to avoid the scattered crowds. Evan noticed movement in the shadows, brief glimpses of a figure following silently. His pulse quickened, knowing the confrontation would not just be with Claire's past. Every step toward the house felt heavier, as if history itself was trying to slow them down. They crossed streets in silence, communicating only through glances and subtle gestures. Claire led him through narrow alleys, avoiding main roads where prying eyes could lurk. The envelope burned in his pocket, a reminder that every clue mattered. Evan felt the weight of choice pressing on him: trust Claire or question every move. They reached the outskirts of the city, where the first shadows of evening began to stretch. The abandoned house stood at the end of the road, dark and waiting like a predator. Claire paused, turning to Evan, her face a mixture of fear and determination. "This is it," she said softly. "Everything starts and ends here. Are you ready?" Evan swallowed hard, feeling the gravity of the moment, knowing there was no turning back. Together, they approached the house, the air thick with anticipation and secrets yet revealed. Each step echoed on the cracked pavement, a drumbeat counting down to the truth. Evan felt the past, present, and future collide as they reached the front door. He gripped the doorknob, heart racing, realizing that once inside, nothing would ever be the same. Evan pushed the door open, the hinges groaning under the weight of years and silence. The house smelled of dust, decay, and memories that refused to fade completely. Claire stepped inside first, her eyes scanning every corner with precision and urgency. Evan followed closely, feeling the walls press in as if the house itself remembered him. The envelope in his pocket felt heavier now, loaded with expectations he could not ignore. They reached the living room, where the last argument had left marks on the furniture. A photograph on the mantel caught Evan's eye, showing them together years ago. He reached for it, tracing the faces with a trembling finger, memories flooding back. Claire moved to the side, pulling another envelope from her coat with careful hands. "This one contains the final instructions," she said, her voice tight with apprehension. Evan opened it slowly, reading each line as if it could be spoken aloud without consequence. The note instructed them to go to the basement, but warned of someone already inside. His pulse quickened, dread crawling up his spine with every word he absorbed. They descended together, the wooden stairs creaking under their synchronized steps. The basement door was ajar, darkness spilling out like a secret waiting to consume them. Evan's hand brushed the wall, steadying himself as Claire led the way. The air grew colder, heavier, carrying the scent of something metallic and foreboding. They reached the center of the basement, where a single chair sat under a flickering light. In the chair was a figure, obscured by shadows but undeniably alive and watching them. Claire whispered his name, warning him to stay silent, her grip firm on his arm. The figure stood slowly, revealing the face of someone Evan had once trusted completely. It was Michael, his childhood friend, now wearing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Evan's heart sank as memories of betrayal and deception returned like a tidal wave. Michael stepped forward, the flickering light illuminating a gun in his hand. "Did you really think you could uncover everything without consequences?" he said sharply. Claire moved slightly in front of Evan, shielding him instinctively. Evan's mind raced, searching for any leverage, any way to diffuse the tension. Michael's eyes flicked between them, calculating and cold, the room tightening around their fear. "Everything you've seen, everything you've found, it was always meant to lead here," he continued. Evan swallowed hard, realizing the letters, the photos, the keys, were part of Michael's plan. Claire stepped forward, her voice steady but urgent. "We're not here to play your game." Michael laughed softly, the sound echoing off the walls, sharp and unnerving. Evan's hand brushed the envelope, considering if it held anything that could save them. Michael raised the gun slightly, the tension snapping like a live wire between them. Evan took a slow breath, focusing on Michael's eyes, searching for hesitation. Claire whispered, "Now," and Evan understood it was time to act. He lunged for the chair behind him, using momentum to knock Michael off balance. The gun clattered to the floor, and Claire grabbed it quickly, securing it out of reach. Michael stumbled back, rage and shock flashing across his face in equal measure. Evan stood firm, the weight of years of fear and questions settling into resolve. Claire moved close, her presence grounding him, her eyes fierce and unwavering. Michael's breathing grew heavy, the room vibrating with the intensity of the confrontation. Evan finally spoke. His voice steady. "It's over. No more secrets, no more games." For a long moment, silence filled the basement, heavy but freeing, the tension slowly fatting. Claire dropped her hand from the gun, but kept a watchful eye on Michael. Evan realized then that the past had been confronted, and the future was theirs to reclaim. They turned toward the stairs together, leaving the darkness behind, step by cautious step. Outside, the first light of evening cast long shadows, signaling an ending and a new beginning. Evan and Claire stepped outside, the cool evening air washing over their tense bodies. The house behind them loomed silently, its secrets exposed and its power diminished. They walked slowly down the cracked pavement, side by side, each step lighter than the last. Evan glanced at Claire, noticing the mixture of relief and lingering fear in her eyes. The letters, the keys, the photographs, they were all behind them now, buried with the past. A distant sound of a car fatting reminded them that the world still moved, indifferent yet present. Evan exhaled deeply, feeling the weight of years lift from his chest, finally released. Claire squeezed his hand, a silent promise that whatever came next, they faced it together. The city lights flickered on, casting a gentle glow over streets that had once seemed threatening. Evan looked forward, imagining days filled with honesty, no shadows lurking in corners. They reached a small park, the same one where their journey had begun, now calm and quiet. Sitting on a bench, they allowed themselves a moment to breathe, to simply exist. The past had tested them, broken them, but it had not destroyed them completely. Evan smiled faintly, realizing that closure was not just an end, but a choice to move forward. Claire nodded, mirroring his smile, understanding without words that their story had changed. Together, they watched the sun dip below the horizon, a silent witness to their survival. Every secret revealed, every danger faced, led them here, stronger and unafraid. Evan knew the future was uncertain, but with Claire by his side, it no longer mattered. They rose from the bench, hands intertwined, ready to face whatever awaited beyond the dusk. And as they walked into the fading light, the past finally stayed where it belonged, behind them,